Welcome. In this session, we will explore the critical domain of IT resource management within the broader context of IT governance. We aren't just talking about hardware. We are talking about the strategic optimization of people, technology, information, and financial assets to deliver business value. Let's begin. Let's start by defining what we mean by IT resource management. It's not just about counting laptops. It is the governance practice of ensuring that the budget, personnel, equipment, and other resources are planned, selected, managed, and measured. Why do we do this? To ensure the IT organization actually has the capability to meet business objectives. If your strategy is to expand digitally, but your resources are tied up in legacy maintenance, you have a misalignment. We must align investment and allocation with the organization's strategy. We will break this down into three main pillars: human resources, financial management, and asset management. From a governance perspective, this ensures we are optimizing value while managing the risks associated with these resources. This flowchart visualizes the flow of authority and value. We start at the top with business strategy, which dictates what the organization needs. This informs IT governance. Governance then directs IT resource management. Notice how resource management splits into three critical optimizations: human resources, people, financial resources, budget, and IT assets, infrastructure. When all three are optimized, they recombine to output business value. You cannot have the result without managing the inputs. The first, and often most critical resource, is people. Human resource management in IT isn't just an HR function, it's a governance function. It starts with hiring, conducting background checks, and ensuring NDAs are signed before access is granted. Once on board, do they know what to do? We need clear job descriptions and a skills matrix to match talent to tasks. You wouldn't ask a network engineer to audit financial code without specific training. Speaking of training, it must be continuous, covering security, technical changes, and compliance. Finally, we must enforce segregation of duties. We cannot allow the same person to write the code and move it to production. That is a governance failure waiting to happen. Here we see the life cycle of the human resource. It begins with HR conducting checks and NDAs. HR hands the employee over to IT management for onboarding. IT management assigns roles, specifically looking at segregation of duties. Then we enter the loop of the employment cycle: continuous training and performance review. This loop repeats until the employee leaves, at which point IT management signals HR and access control to immediately revoke access. This sequence ensures security from day one to day zero. We don't always have the resources internally, so we look to sourcing. Governance requires a deliberate decision. Do we insource, outsource, or use a hybrid model? If we outsource, we aren't outsourcing responsibility. We must perform due diligence on vendors. Can they protect our data? This relationship is governed by the Service Level Agreement, or SLA. The SLA must be specific, measurable, and include penalties for non-performance. Crucially, as auditors, we look for the right to audit clause. Without it, we are blind to the vendor's internal controls. We must manage the risk that the vendor might fail or leak our data. Follow the decision path. A business need arises. We face a sourcing decision. If we insource, we go to hire and train. If we outsource, we move to vendor selection. Note the critical steps. Due diligence must happen before the contract. The contract creates the SLA. Once active, we move to monitoring. Monitoring splits into two verification paths: exercising our right to audit to verify compliance, and reviewing metrics to verify performance. Both feed back into the vendor relationship status. Now let's look at the things. IT asset management. You cannot secure what you don't know you have. We need a comprehensive inventory of hardware, software, and data. But not all assets are equal. We must classify them based on sensitivity. Is it public or restricted data? This drives the level of protection required. We manage assets through a life cycle: procurement, deployment, maintenance, and finally disposal. Disposal is a critical risk area. We must ensure data is sanitized or destroyed before a physical drive leaves the building to prevent data leakage. This state diagram shows the life of an asset. It starts at procurement. It moves to deployment, where it is configured and tagged for inventory. It enters the maintenance phase, where it lives most of its life being patched and monitored. It might cycle back to deployment if upgraded. Eventually, it reaches end of life and moves to disposal. The final transition to the end state requires a secure wipe or destroy action. If that action fails, the cycle is broken and risk remains. IT is often expensive, so financial resource management is key. We separate budgets into operational expenses, keeping the lights on, and capital expenditures, new investments. Before spending, we perform a cost-benefit analysis. Is this project worth it? This feeds into portfolio management, where we prioritize investments. We can't do everything, so we do what aligns best with strategy. To control demand, we might use chargeback models, billing business units for the IT they use. Ultimately, we must measure the return on investment, or ROI, to prove that IT is delivering value, not just consuming cash. This pie chart illustrates a healthy IT portfolio allocation. We see a balance. Strategic growth and operations might take the lion's share, say 40% each. But we must also carve out slices for compliance and risk, often non-negotiable, and innovation. If the operations slice becomes 90%, you have no resources left for strategy or innovation, indicating a governance failure in resource allocation. You have deployed resources, but are they working effectively? We need performance monitoring. We use KPIs, key performance indicators, to measure specific outcomes like uptime or response time. We engage in capacity planning to predict future needs, so we aren't caught short. We monitor utilization to find waste. Are servers sitting idle? This leads to optimization, where we tune the system for efficiency. We also look outward via benchmarking to see how we compare to industry standards. If we aren't measuring, we aren't managing. This flow shows the optimization logic. Monitoring tools feed data analysis. The analysis branches based on findings. If utilization is low, we consolidate or retire assets to save money. If utilization is high, we scale up to maintain performance. If there is a performance gap, we optimize or tune the system. All three paths lead to the desired state, an optimized environment. This is a continuous process, not a one-time fix. Resource management is inextricably linked to risk management. What if a key engineer leaves? That's key person risk. What if a server is no longer supported? That's technology obsolescence. We use risk assessment to find these vulnerabilities. We mitigate them through cross-training staff and building redundant systems. We perform gap analysis to see where we are versus where we need to be. We specifically hunt for single points of failure, whether that's one router or one person who knows the password. Finally, we ensure these resources fit into our business continuity plans so operations survive a disruption. Let's map out the risks. At the center is resource risk. Branching to personnel, we see key person dependency and insider threats. Under technology, we face obsolescence and vendor lock-in. Under financial, we worry about budget cuts or cost overruns. Seeing these risks mapped out helps us prioritize where to apply our governance controls. To conclude, what is your role as an IS auditor? You are the independent set of eyes. You evaluate whether these resource management practices actually align with the strategy. You verify compliance. Are they following their own hiring and procurement policies? You assess efficiency. Is there waste? You report these findings to management, highlighting risks like single points of failure or vendor lock-in. Ultimately, your goal is to provide assurance that IT resource management is delivering value to the business. Thank you for your attention. Our final diagram summarizes the audit process. The IS auditor starts the assessment. We look at three main streams: alignment with strategy, compliance with policy, and resource efficiency. These findings consolidate into the audit report. The report is not the end. It drives management action to correct issues and improve governance. This closes the loop on IT resource management.